there's anything I know about Ontario, it's that there's a lot of weird rural bus systems that have a really large catchment area. You know, you got your Simcoe Lynxes, your Ride CKs, your Selwyn, the Lynx. But the one that I'm most interested in today is GTR in Grey County. That's Grey Transit Route. Presumably they wanted to call it GRT, but they didn't want to confuse it for the other transit system in Ontario named GRT. So this system has been running since about 2019, and at the end of February of 2025, it was announced that the system would be shutting down except for one route, which we'll get to later, because the provincial funding for it was going to expire on March 31st. So in lieu of this, I decided, let's go ride the whole system before it shuts down. So the system is like a really long route that's split into 4 different routes. The southern end is in Orangeville, so that's where we're going to go right now. I always really like the Kitchener line because it's such a legit commuter line, but like it's not on the Lakeshore corridor. This is Charleston Side Road, and if anybody's curious, this is where I filmed that bus stop for the wayfinding video. It made it to Orangeville. So this is the stop that I'm getting on the bus at. This is Orangeville Mall. The GTR bus schedule shows this stop as a GO Transit connection, but like it's a 2-hour wait or something like that. So I'm gonna go to downtown Orangeville the whole time. Thank you. So I'm in the Orangeville Library. Orangeville's a nice town. I've never actually been down the main drag. It looks pretty good. But anyway, let's talk more about this bus service that is going away soon. So started in late 2019 with 4 routes. Orangeville to Dundalk, Dundalk to Owen Sound, Owen Sound to Meaford, and Meaford to Blue Mountain. And then later they added a 5th route, Owen Sound to Wiarton. I lied a little bit about the entire system going away. The Route 2 from Orangeville to Dundalk will be remaining, but that's because Dufferin County is paying for it. The route from Owen Sound to Wiarton actually has already been cancelled recently, and that's because Bruce County, of which Wiarton is in, didn't want to pay for the bus service. The system acts like one big line, which is split into 2 subdivisions and 4 routes. Route 2 goes from Orangeville to Dundalk. Route 1 goes from Dundalk to Owen Sound, and that's one subdivision. And then the other subdivision has Route 3 from Owen Sound to Meaford and Route 4 from Meaford to Blue Mountain Village. To ride this service, you need to book in advance. The service is operated by a driver's seat. It's $5 from anywhere to anywhere on any one subdivision. So, say Orangeville to Owen Sound is $5, and then Owen Sound to Blue Mountain is $5. So I'm taking Orangeville Transit to the Orangeville Mall, which is where the GTR bus picks up. They're running school buses right now, but we do have like normal 30-foot minis. The website says that they're out of service because of like snow or something, I don't know. Although on the plus side, Orangeville Transit does have transit app tracking, and their Thank you. Okay, so I didn't record a lot of audio on the ride just because it was like a really small vehicle and I didn't really feel comfortable speaking. So you're just gonna have to settle for editing, Ryan. So before I say anything else, I just want to get the reason why the service is ending out of the way. I was talking with the driver, and a lot of the information I'm gonna be saying now will be coming from stuff that me and the driver talked about. The provincial funding program that they mentioned on the website, there's not a whole lot of literature out there that I can find, but I presume that it's some like money the provincial government gave to counties and areas in Ontario to like start their own rural public transit system, but it had a time limit on it. That's why it's ending on March 31st. And then after that funding expired, then the county or the area running the system could choose to continue funding it themselves if it was successful or just stop, I guess. Grey County is choosing to end the service, but Dufferin County is choosing to keep funding their portion of the service. I don't know if that's correct or not. That's what I'm inferring based on the information that the driver gave me. Next, let's talk about the usage of the service. The portion from Orangeville to Dundalk was the busiest, although there still were a handful of riders continuing on from Dundalk to Owen Sound. The portion from Owen Sound to Meaford, there was one rider, and then I was the only rider from Meaford to Blue Mountain. So clearly, the part from Orangeville to Owen Sound is the busiest, with the part that's still going to be existing after the end of March being the busiest, at least when I rode it. Portions of the service might be busier at other times. Again, I was talking with the driver. He said that a lot of the workers at the Chapman's ice cream factory in Markdale use the service to get to and from the factory for work, and Markdale is on the portion between Dundalk and Owen Sound that's going away at the end of March. There are also a lot of commuters going to and from Brampton, so they're taking this service to Orangeville, then getting on the GO bus to Brampton. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that it's not like the service doesn't get any riders. It's an incredibly useful service to some people. It goes to one of Ontario's largest tourist destinations, Blue Mountain, not via a very convenient route from Toronto, but a really good route from Owen Sound and points around there. It also gets commuter traffic, which going into this, I didn't expect anything like that. And from what the driver was telling me, it's gonna leave a lot of people stranded once the service ends. It's like the people working at the Chapman's factory, the people going to Brampton from Owen Sound and Shelburne and Markdale and Dundalk and places like that. And even people on the Georgian Bayshore portion of the service from like Meaford and Thornbury. You know, that entire area, like Wasaga Beach, Collingwood, Blue Mountain, Thornbury, Meaford, it sees a lot of people going between all of those towns, and it's split in the middle between Simcoe and Grey counties. The Simcoe County part gets pretty alright transit. There's the Simcoe Links, and there's also the transit in Collingwood and Wasaga Beach. But once you get to Blue Mountain, GTR is kind of your only option, so it's kind of unfair that people on the east side of the Georgian Bayshore area get transit between their towns and to Blue Mountain and away from Blue Mountain, but people on the west side won't be getting that past the end of March. I actually spoke with a rider going from Owen Sound to Meaford. Have you heard about the service ending in a month?
Yes, I have.
All right, and how does that make you feel?
Actually, I think it's a real letdown. I think it's necessary. It's a way to accommodate a handicap and the people less fortunate that don't have vehicles.
Or do you have something to say for to either the organization running it or the province who's where the funding is expiring from?
Perhaps they could juggle around the schedule a little differently, because I think it's a real letdown. It's a shame that it's ending.
Stuff like this is why I think a bus service similar to the Ontario Northland bus service in Northern Ontario, but for Southern Ontario, would make sense, just because
There's so many small communities that don't have any transit service whatsoever between anywhere. And there's some places that do have transit, but it's in the form of these disjointed agencies like GTR, no offense to GTR, that have their own fares. They might not interconnect very well with one another, and they don't have a lot of capacity. They usually run mini buses or these vans. So, a provincially funded intercity coach bus service for these areas would probably be a very useful thing for people going between cities and towns. Not for local transit, obviously, but to replace these like county-wide and area-wide transit services with something a bit more cohesive that connects well to other stuff for people, particularly along the Huron Shore area and the North Shore of Lake Erie, and the Bruce Peninsula and the Georgian Bay Shore area, because a lot of these places, most of these places, in fact, have existing transit that goes between towns like this. It's just in the form of these disjointed agencies. And I think it would work a lot better if it was one agency, preferably with a bit more capacity and a bit more comfort in the form of coach buses. Because the whole reason why Ontario Northland runs buses is because no private operator will run intercity buses to a lot of the places that they serve. It's the same with southwestern Ontario and a lot of other places in Ontario. You have private carriers like Flixbus and Trailways and Megabus that go to the bigger population centers like Windsor and Sarnia and Ottawa and London. Flixbus goes to Owen Sound via Collingwood and Blue Mountain as well. But there's a lot of places in between those routes that don't get any service like this from private carriers. So to wrap up, some level of government needs to fund this service. It would probably end up being Grey County, but it's too valuable of a service to lose.